Hello, everybody. My name is Ray. Welcome to the Evangelical Dark Web. Tonight, we're going to be discussing, I guess, what a lot of people on the social medias are talking about, and that is a very high-profile OnlyFans girl and her conversion to Christianity. We're going to discuss the debates surrounding this topic and whether or not we think it's a legitimate conversion or a false conversion or a scam, or whether, how should we respond to high profile conversions of this nature in general. And we're also going to talk, a little bit about manosphere issues related to this as well. So there's a lot to kind of break down with this topic. I've wanted to do a video on this kind of topic for a while because the specific case study I want to use a more clinical term that we're going to be focusing mostly on tonight is not the first example of this sort of thing happening. It's not Nala the Ninja or Nala Fitness or Nala Daddy. I don't know what exactly to call her. Is not the first I want to say high. She's probably the highest profile only girl to get baptized and have a high profile conversion, but is not the first. And there are not very happy stories preceding her, unfortunately. So there's a lot of skepticism surrounding it. There's a lot of celebration surrounding it. We also have Kanye West going viral recently for saying and detailing his beef with Jesus, because Kanye West has beef with Jesus. Kind of a ironic thing to say, I guess. It kind of sounds absurd. I got beef with Christ. Like, you know who you're talking to. But Kanye West, I think people are all of a sudden now saying it's finally over for Kanye West. But I think the moment with Kanye West that it was officially over was when he refused to call out Balenciaga. And he counted the cost, and his love for the fashion industry was too great.
And that was before he went Black Hebrew Israelite on Tucker Carlson.
I have no frame of reference between the two events. It was when I believe it was when he was doing the black mask and the wearing the black mask over his head, and before he started parading his new wife around, pretty much butt naked.
Yeah, I think that for me was when I had confirmation, like, oh yeah, he's gone. he's
right. So he has a clear type, and it's Jezebel. So
yeah.
I think a lot of people.
I mean, some people
that.
are Samsons, and they also have a clear type, except it's called Delilah.
Philistine women, loose Philistine women.
Yeah,
I think. So, yeah. And is this another Kanye West situation? I see in the chat someone's like, I hope we talk about Kanye, and how we should have maybe wait to see rather than celebrating Kanye on the onset. But at least with Kanye, I think, admittedly, there was like a lot of reports that he had some actual good heads around him. Like, Kanye had some biblical counsel around him, apparently. Now, that kind of quickly dissipated with the whole, him hanging out with Joel Osteen, and every single prosperity gospel preacher wanted a little piece of the action. And then he ran with like a female pastor for president, I think. So I think that was 2020. So it's not exactly, there were a lot of fault lines beforehand, but when he decided that, I'm not going to condemn Balenciaga for, child sacrifice or whatever they were doing that was demonic. I think that was the moment. And then he started to see his pretentious fashion senses kind of take over from there and parade his wife around like an animal. So, but anyway, we're going to talk mostly about Nala because this is a really high profile example going on right now. A lot of tension between, men and women, young men and young women. And I think OnlyFans is certainly one of the highlights of that, and the whole issue of high body count and there's like a manosphere critique that a lot of women like to convert in order to settle down. So a lot of issues that are, facing, target audience for this channel, certainly come up with this high profile instance. So that's why we're going to be focusing on that. Ryan is joining us because he's gone viral for posting a lot of these clips on the Twitter sphere. So, and he has a different take than Anthony wrote in a recent article, which he wrote the article on the OnlyFans girl, Nala, without me prompting him or anything. He just took an interest in the story on his own. I, have kept my cards close to my chest kind of this entire time on the issue, but I lean skeptical, and I guess we're going to talk why you're leaning hopeful. So I think this is going to have a livelier discussion on that.
I am. There is still a degree of skepticism for me, just to be clear. But I do think that when somebody gives their life to the Lord, especially when they're coming out of such a pervasive industry, and they do it publicly, it's something that should be celebrated. Also, just some backstory, because when I first made my initial post with her, I didn't really expect it to go viral. It was actually kind of a dig at the Red Pill community, and we have to back up a little bit because there was probably about.
I didn't see your post, just for the record, so I'm not.
No, that's fine. I mean, no one's gonna know this, but about a month ago, there was a debate on Twitter that was sparked largely by Myron with the Fresh and Fit podcast, and he was responding to Chase or Sovereign Bra, who's been on the whatever podcast, and he was basically saying something along the lines of Jesus can't save these hoes. Direct quote from him: Jesus can't save these hoes. And then you have the Red Pill echoing his statements, basically saying once a whore, always a whore. And that was something that rubbed me the wrong way.
I would agree with that.
It wasn't Sovereign Bra that was saying that.
He said Myron.
No. Myron was responding to Sovereign Bra.
Okay.
Yeah. Chase is awesome. He's really solid. So
Chat of the year last year, by the way.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's a cool guy. So that rubbed me the wrong way. So a couple weeks passed, and then I see her baptism getting shared, and it was like in that moment I felt like God was saying, "Yeah, but I'm getting her," and it was like in my mind it was like God flexing on the red pill community. So then I tweeted out basically kind of a dig at them, like, yeah, he can save them. And that was kind of how that all started. And then I just started sharing her process because, like she's a girl coming out of OnlyFans, a pervasive porn industry. She was one of the top people in that industry. And that industry is obviously a mess. So this girl's going to have a lot of stuff to work through. And I don't expect it to happen overnight. I don't even expect it to happen in a year. I think it's going to take her time to shut off all this stuff. And right from the beginning, all I've been saying is she needs some time. That's it.
I mean, just to give you some perspective, the article started off when I found out what church did the baptism, because literally it's a marketing company that pretty much brands itself as a church, because the seeker sensitivity movement is just flooded. Is just all about slogans and a consumer culture. I literally searched the words "love more, fear less," and then church. Came up with Fearless Church. The logo on the shirt matched. The slogan matched. And that's how I figured out what church it was. And from there, it's just like, okay, this church that did the baptism is not a credible church.
Oh, I didn't know that. So I haven't read your article.
No one. I don't think anyone.
I think he's the first
who did the
That,
church.
so
because it's not even a mega church. Multi-campus, but not a large online footprint. It's LA.
A lot of small churches try to do the multi-campus model. Like even where we live, we have that, which is you wouldn't think about it, but a lot of suburban aspiring mega churches are out there. That being said, I do want to say smash the like button, and if you want to support Evangelical Dark Web, we have our Patreon like system at evangelicaldarkweb.org/join, and check out our free newsletter, which is also linked in the description below. since I don't want to read a bunch of URLs. This is the article in reference. So you talk about Fearless Church specifically.
Yeah, I mean, this is your seeker-sensitive church that all the pithy slogans in the world.
Discover how fear is proof of God's call on your life. How to overcome the taunt of fear.
That's
how to become.
That's the lead pastor's book.
Taunt of fear.
Whatever.
Or how to
no,
overcome.
It's
and then how to become the devil's greatest threat by confronting fear with heavenly power. How to kick fear out once and for all by basking in the love of God. I mean, I think this sounds more like self-help, to be honest. But
yeah, I mean, this is like your John Mark Comer. This is like his vein of Christianity, very wishy-washy. I mean, you should click on their website at the top and just look at their beliefs page. That's the Amazon. But click on their beliefs page and see what their doctrines are.
One of my my chief concerns actually wasn't about what she was going to do to strengthen her relationship with God. One of my ultimate questions is, where is she going to land? And my biggest fear is that she would land in a seeker-sensitive church. And that's what it sounds like. I am now less optimistic because.
Well, that's why I decided to write the article. Because it's like, okay, Saturday I watched this on Elijah Schaefer, which, probably not the thing you should do in a culturally enriched neighborhood with the windows open, but I did it anyway. And yeah, this is, once I found out what the church was, then it's like, okay, we got something a little bit more brewing. We got something underneath the surface to talk about. But yeah, that's
Fearless
their belief.
Is our mission. Jesus is our pursuit. People are our passion. Man, I've heard all of this. Family is our commitment. Worship is our weapon. Freedom is our sound. Love is our action. Servanthood is our position. Honor is our privilege. Excellence is our spirit. Prayer is our source. Fearless mission.
It's a yard sign. It's literally yard sign.
It is a yard sign. Yeah. It's not bumper. We've upgraded
from the Bible is our doorstop, because I doubt
there's actually no statement on the Bible on their website.
Yeah.
The only verse they quote is in John, which is about fear.
So let's talk about Nala, because a lot of Christians start out in seeker-sensitive churches, and then they realize that something's missing, something's lacking. And I think that's something that a lot of people experience. So let's kind of get the backstory on this. And this is kind of where it gets very disturbing. And this is a clip from the Whatever podcast, which she has been on once or twice. So this is, or she changed outfits in the middle of her one appearance, which I don't think is.
I think she's been on multiple times, but this is December. This posted on December 4th, but the original clip was probably the Sunday prior, because they do like a Sunday and a Tuesday show. And this is the clip. This is the clip channel. So this probably was within a week after the original recording.
All right, so here we go.
Maybe talked a bit.
So my dad, my entire family knows. My mom and I don't speak anymore. She's very religious, conservative. We've never had a good relationship throughout my entire life. It didn't even matter when I was a pastor's kid.
Yeah.
My dad found out and everything, very just supportive of me. He is still a Christian. He loves me. Me and my dad have had a really good relationship throughout the years. I financially support my family because they're retired now and have like kids who have kids. And like my nieces and nephew need like things sometimes. So I love to give money to my family because, I have it and they're still part of my family. Like I care about them. So even if I didn't speak to them, I wouldn't care. Like I made the decisions I made and I'm being very smart about it. And obviously I know that OnlyFans is not the end result. I went to college to be a dental hygienist and I worked in an orthopedic office scheduling surgeries and stuff. I had big girl jobs with big girl benefits that didn't pay the bills. So I'm like, listen, I have huge pursuits like snowboarding. Snowboarding's fucking expensive. I want to be tutored in Japanese. That's expensive. Like I wanted things that I couldn't achieve with a normal job and like something that men think that I should be doing,
So I kind of want to pause right there just to do a quick aerial perspective on the father situation or lack thereof. Because she's a pastor's kid, which is kind of the most shocking thing about this, which I don't know if that helps with skepticism or hurts with skepticism. In a way, because I feel like, we're going to talk about how this is her upbringing. She has sort of this strict Christian upbringing, sort of, but obviously the father couldn't have been that theologically convicted if he's supporting this pursuit in his own daughter, and taking the money. That's kind of a biggie as well. So obviously he doesn't have any strong conviction there.
Well, I imagine he's a product of, like, I don't want to say this falling away, but like a lot in the last decade, a lot of weak hands have been shaken from the deck, so to speak. And I think she's pushing 30. I think that's.
I thought she's 24.
Okay, maybe she's 20. Okay, I mean, obviously, still that's 8 years. So I mean, the point being that a lot of weak hands have been shaken, especially with a lot of the increased racial
it's 6 years,
the wokeness.
not 8 years. She didn't start when she was 16.
Sorry.
I should hope not.
Well, she was sneaking out of the house at 16. That she
probably
too.
Maybe. Is that in the video?
It's in her testimony video.
Okay. I don't know if you had anything to add to that, Ryan.
No, them taking the money thing is definitely a big red flag, because like, how strong are you in your faith that you're taking your daughter's porn money? I certainly would not do that. So I do think that's probably not a good thing, and probably is not somebody that was a role model for her for being sound in their faith.
Yeah, and is she like the one child that caused her parents' divorce? I say that tongue in cheek, because a lot of kids blame themselves. But it's like her actions clearly caused a rift in her parents' marriage. That apparently the mom was the stronger one, and in terms of staying more faithful to God, and that caused the rift because her father wanted to take the money, and I guess now they're separated over this issue. Obviously, money is a big factor in divorce. And how you raise kids can be a big factor in what causes a divorce. And it seems like, that was definitely the prodigal child, went back and hurt the marriage. And I just kind of want to set up the father situation and the parental situation, because I think this is relevant to the testimonial, the testimony video, which we have lined up. So I kind of think, this is a good snapshot of the before, so we can see, I don't want to say the after, but certainly see, what exactly does she think the faith is, and what exactly is her response. And what's interesting is like how she views her parents before kind of seems on friendlier terms than after. At least here, she's still speaking with her parents and her family, whether or not they approve or are skeptical. So, how much more do we need to listen to on this clip, Anthony?
You could probably skip it to like 5:20. That's when she speaks again. But she does allude to in this, like, I want to say, if she hasn't already, she will shortly allude to the fact that the money is drying up. So that is something she does say in this video. So and this is and the baptism video posted on December 6th. So same. So
I thought it was 26th.
26, sorry. Just to give some perspective of a timeline.
Right. So almost 4 months ago or 3 months ago. And it's important to remember that the Whatever podcast is a very high profile podcast. I don't know how they were able to be so successful with YouTube algorithms the way that they are, but they pretty much accelerate as a, bros against kind of hoes type of show. And they've mastered that format of just letting, only fangirls speak and kind of, you just, give them the Socratic dialogue, and it's gone viral because these women don't do well under the Socratic dialogue. So,
and keep in mind, a lot of Christians are now talking about like red pill manosphere issues because of this podcast. I don't think they were necessarily talking about Andrew Tate prior to this. It's really this podcast is just why they're talking about Andrew Tate.
OnlyFans who they will face that challenge. But I think Nala here is an exceptional
You're an
learner.
exception for it.
Well,
So-
it's just so much more about growing yourself as a person and not just growing and making content and taking pictures of yourself. That doesn't help you do anything bigger. And then when you're making this much money as such a young person, you're like, wow, this is the time to be an adult. You need to set up for your future self. Like, you need to think of like the future Nala and be like, you know what? She'd want to be comfortable too. And she would want to continue sending her parents money.
Yeah.
I know that for a fact because I don't feel like I'm changing anytime soon. You know, so that was the biggest purpose of this. And I felt so steady in my decision making through this and financial, just like maneuvering. I'm so thankful that I did what I did.
I have
For
a
sure.
quick
Yeah.
question. If you went to your parents and you asked them, you said, I have a choice. I can either quit doing all of this tomorrow, right, and go get a job for like a tenth of this, or I can continue to do this and send you money. Which one do you think they would ask?
My mom would say, absolutely quit. My dad, he'd be like, oh my God, no, why would you ever quit?
Your dad would say that?
My dad would say that I send money to my dad so that he can be comfortable with
And
like
he's
their
a
family.
pastor?
No, he's not a pastor anymore. They stopped being a pastor when I was like 18.
Okay, but he
So-
was, and he retained his faith, right?
He did. I'm his daughter though. I'm not just some stranger. He's like, you know what? If I want her in
doesn't
my
that
life,
make it worse? Like, wouldn't that make it
absolutely
worse?
not. Don't you have to
Would you
accept your
leave her,
kids for
though?
who they
No.
are?
Yeah. What?
And
So
what?
you would,
No.
So wait,
disown
wait,
your
no
wait.
more-
daughter?
no-
Guys, one mic at a time.
Are you
One mic
just
at a
saying
time.
that, like,
I'll let
let's
you
just
come
say,
in. Go
Hang
ahead.
on, I'll
let's
answer
just
it.
say,
I'll answer the
if you had
question.
a kid and they were doing OnlyFans, what, you just disown them because they're doing, they made a bad decision.
Until they clean their life up, yeah.
You're a bad parent.
Wow, that's
My
terrible.
family would
That's bad
That's
parenting?
absolutely
My family would
terrible
100%
parenting.
disown me.
Okay, well then,
100%.
what about
That's
you're a bad
terrible.
kid?
No,
Okay,
you couldn't
we're
think
allowed
your
to make
kid
bad
is
decisions.
bad.
Guys, please.
Yeah,
one at a
you
time.
can- you can-
One person speaking at a time. Go
You
ahead.
can think your
then
kid
you guys
is
can talk.
bad.
Go ahead.
You can think your kid is bad and disagree with their life choices, sure, but as a parent, you're supposed to be like a guiding figure and a loving figure, and part of
they've
that is not
rejected-
abandoning them in their time of need.
They've-
And
what
if
do
you
you
want,
mean?
if you
They're
want to
giving
talk
you the
about
middle finger.
Christianity, if you want to talk about Christianity, if you want to talk about like God and Jesus and the countless stories there are in the
Wait.
Bible of like still
I gotta
accept.
respond to this. I gotta
Okay,
respond to
okay.
this. Okay, listen. First of all, let's dive into this just a little bit. Okay, my daughter calls me up and she's like, "Hey, Dad, I'm still going to be doing OnlyFans, but I'm kind of thinking about not doing it." Right? I would say, "Yes, absolutely, don't do it." In her situation, she's like, "No, he would totally be cool with
You're
it."
saying you would
Because
disown
you're
your
supporting
child.
it.
You're saying you would say, "Be gone, child."
What was the context? The context is until what?
He
No,
supports
the
it.
context
Until-
was
decision.
we asked
One at a time.
the question was straightforwardly asked. If you found out your daughter had OnlyFans, what would you do?
And I
you
said
were saying
until she cleaned up, I would not be participating with her or
mean,
allow her in my
you
life.
said you would
It's probably easier for
disown
them-
her.
Why is that awful?
Because you're not supporting your child
Yeah, I'm
anymore.
not supporting
You don't have
bad,
to support
horrible
what you're
decisions that they're
doing, but
making.
So obviously we see what's the guy's name on this product? Is it Brian?
Andrew.
Andrew.
Yeah.
Andrew. And he takes a lot more of a biblical approach to this issue.
I actually
think.
wrote my article based on in part on this video that parents actually should excommunicate or disown or whatever word you want to use. That actually is the clear biblical response to this issue. It's unambiguous in Scripture. Every single example.
I'm absolutely on board with
In
that.
fact, Leviticus 18:29 is like literally chapter 18. All the sins listed. Cut off from your people anyone who does these sins.
Not only just the family, but the church too. Like if you are continuing in sin in your church, I don't think churches do it enough. Actually, I think it should happen a lot more. People getting excommunicated for being unrepentant in their sin. Yeah.
Now it sounds like she's also the reason he stopped being a pastor.
I can infer that too. Like, and keep in mind that is a reproach. Like that father is not above reproach.
Yeah, because
there's
one thing for the
qualifications.
daughter. It's one thing for the daughter to go off the deep end. Although I think immediately when she turns 18, how really in the household and in and of the faith was she? According that's Titus that I believe has the mentions the children. I think so. How well was he in line with that already? But in terms of being a prodigal, that might not be as much of a reproach as a debate about that. Which would basically
saying
mean
it would
someone
be
like John
100
Piper would be disqualified because the son
Oh,
a
you could
mass
make the
atheist.
argument that he is because
I mean, I think he's disqualified for different reasons.
well, I would
but
say the fact is that since Abraham Piper is such a stain on John Piper's reputation, it is inherently a reproach. But again, the fact that it's like as soon as she turns 18, going off, though I don't know what age I don't know the timeline of her thing, but
I don't know the timeline of her working her way to the top. And even in her testimonial video, it seems like there's some braggadociousness about how talented she is in terms of the game, and that she was she was using it in the wrong directions.
well, I think her prominence came from the whole cosplay thing. Like, obviously, she's doing the Spider-Man costume. That's why she's as prominent as she is, and she combines that with OnlyFans.
Yeah. And I don't know where the fitness comes in, because she doesn't really look like one of the other many multitudes of fitness influencers. But I could be, wrong about that. But as far as I can tell from the Instagram, it's mostly just pretend stage play, I guess. I want to say a special thanks to Dylan for the super chat. And is there any more clips in this one that we need to watch, Anthony?
I mean, if you want to continue, they do proceed with this debate for pretty much the remainder of the video. I mean, the Filipino with the dyed hair and the low cut in the center of the screen, she actually makes my argument for me, because she says that when her mother was in her life, that she felt like she was on a better track, and then when her mother was distant from her, things got worse in her life, which is basically my entire argument, that parents are cushioning the yoke of sin upon people's life, because she's not repenting when her mother's in her life. So therefore, it's actually cushioning the burden of sin. You're actually making sin more comfortable for them. So that actually makes my entire argument.
Wow.
If you wanted to continue. Otherwise, it's a lot of women like talking over each other. The obnoxious.
It's a fun podcast, but I just don't have 7 hours to watch these kind of videos.
The clips are a guilty pleasure, I admit.
Very much so. I believe this is the next clip, is something that you posted. It's actually, I want to switch over to the baptism first. So this is the embed from the article, but let me switch over to the baptism first, because she went and posted this video December 26th. And
he is
not even my biggest. It's like one of my.
I don't know why this really sucks at it. So
you need a link.
I got it pulled up, but yeah, I don't know why Restream just takes a video and tries to force it into the 16:9 format when it was clearly not uploaded as such. So I got it pulled up somewhere. So that being said, the baptism is right here. And you're not able to see screen at the moment. So here we go.
There's music, but it might be copyrighted.
Not even my biggest. It's like one of my fantasies.
So she basically sent this out. This was the baptism video was much older, but she talks about no matter what you've done, God loves you and wants you to be close to him, and he'll forgive you, but you have to turn to him first. He calls us to repent and pick up our cross daily and follow him. Have you accepted Christ, or have you accepted him into your heart, is the thing. So you're able to see that on screen or no? Okay.
Yeah, I can
cool.
see it.
I guess I stopped sharing screen entirely. So yeah, so that's the initial, and then there's the testimony video, which does raise some questions, because the testimony video is from
March 11th.
Yes. So I think that's kind of the shady part about this whole thing, is that she is baptized December 26th. It looks like a spontaneous baptism in a way. I don't, I gotta just say, like, I think the proper way of baptism is in a baptismal pool behind the pulpit of a church, rather than having a bunch of little tubs of water for baptism. Which
No,
I
you're
know
not going
how
to say
these
an
large
infant. You're not
churches
going to
do
say
it.
as like 7 days after the child's born.
No, I'm not going to say that at all. I will take a stand. And the reason why is because credo baptism and credo communion is the most consistent position. If the Paedo Baptists want to do Paedo communion as well, then they would be consistent in my mind. I don't see the reason why you would baptize a baby but then deny them communion. That makes no sense, to deny someone who's baptized communion. So
Drop
that's
all
my
your
stand.
hot takes in the comments, people.
Oh yes, that's my theological hot take on that. But hey, so if I were to be Paedo Baptist, I would also have to be Paedo communion to be consistent.
I don't know. I mean, 30 pages of Calvin on paedo baptism really changes a guy.
So that being said, here's the video. Hopefully this uploaded nicely into the website.
Good morning, everybody. Okay, so really quick, I have a couple things to address, and I just need you to listen to me. So I've had quite a few people reach out to me, comment, just truly curious about what and why I changed. So listen, I was a pastor's kid for almost all my life. I grew up in church. I was always in church. I was also homeschooled. So my life truly felt like a cage. And I'm not saying Christianity is a cage. I'm saying religion was the cage. I was a Baptist. I was a Baptist pastor's child for the longest time, right? Me and my family did not have a good relationship. And I'm the middle of 5 children. So I'm talking about my other brothers and sisters and my parents. It just truly felt like such a cage. I was a very rebellious child, like sneaking out when I was like 16 years old. I was just going the wrong way, right? So
this is kind of where this is where a lot of my skepticism comes from, is that, and that was before I saw the clip of her talking about how she pays her dad and she's the sugar daughter for her dad. Yeah, that's before I learned that information. But hearing the way she talks about her family, I just think is kind of dishonoring. That even though that she was the prodigal child, like, you don't see in scripture the prodigal son be like, yeah, I had it so bad with my dad. No, it was, wow, even my dad's servants have it better than I do right now.
Yeah, I mean, that was the first red flag I saw from this video, was just her disdain for her family. Again, I hate the religion, the hatred for religion, the relationship over religion. And ironically, the part in the article I had already pre-written that in another article, and I just transposed it onto this story, because I hate the relationship over religion mantra that is very much a consumer slogan that is masquerading as Christianity.
Yeah, I took issue too with the way that she talked about her parents, to be honest with you. But I also just recognize, like, all right, she's kind of just coming back to this thing, and it's just going to take time for her to kind of shed some of this stuff off.
Yeah, I do think that's the optimistic take, and I don't hate it. But it's like, ooh, it just, when she talks about her family like that, I'm like,
yeah, it's dishonoring. That's like,
yeah,
honor our parents.
I don't, and we got to remember that the 10 Commandments are in order.
Yeah.
So, honoring your mother and your father is actually a more important commandment than thou shalt not murder.
I mean, and
it's stunning, but it's also kind of obvious.
I mean, just to go on a larger theological tangent, and perhaps another hot take is that, yeah, when she goes off and does OnlyFans, that's dishonoring her parents. She is violating the 5th commandment. When a child goes gay, they are dishonoring their parents and violating the 5th commandment. So,
I mean, it somewhat is, until the father takes the money, and then he is the guy that is, turned his own daughter to harlotry, which is, there's a biblical commandment against.
That's kind of something that, because essentially he's kind of prostituting his own daughter out in a way by taking the money. So it's like he's not somebody I think would command respect. So it's not. I'm not saying I agree with her here, but I understand probably why she'd feel that way, because her father doesn't seem like a respectable person. I'm not saying she's right, but I'm saying I kind of understand why she would probably have a
like
little bit of
I understand why
disdain
I understand that I have no respect for her father.
like,
But I still think like she should know the Bible stories. Like growing up, she should know about Peter denying Christ 3 times, David and Goliath, and like a lot of the Sunday school lesson, the friendly Sunday school lessons, the prodigal son included. So the fact is, like, you don't necessarily see her channel any of like this childhood upbringing in Christianity, and she has like, she's your she'll mention it if she hasn't, the homeschool, like 5 siblings. Like she has like this stereotypical like evangelical upbringing of like large family, church, homeschooled, white evangelical.
And I guess because the father approved of her, what she did, that also causes barriers to, a more proper understanding and application of faith. Like she can't look at him as a model of faith. So she kind of has to start from ground zero, work her way up, and I think that's what she's doing. And I don't think she has a very solid foundation, as we've talked about Fearless Church. And so a lot of, bad influences are around her. And it's unfortunate that she can't positively look on her upbringing because of her father's decision to approve of her, basically disgracing herself. So how is she going to take, that conservative upbringing? Now, as a counterbalance, her mother didn't approve. So there is tension there where at least one of her parents modeled a more proper response and a more proper biblical foundation that she could follow.
Well,
so I guess there's tension between.
I mean, we can forget the parent.
No direction, no structure and structure.
I mean, we can forget exactly what the parents are like now. But we can base it off what they were like then.
Yeah,
which was
the barriers. Again, I have the whole video like transcribed on a Word document. So she talks about how she was sneaking out and how she was violating their rules. Like she's not even arguing that their rules were right. She's actually saying that their rules and their restrictions on her growing up were cages. That's what I took issue with. Not necessarily whether you respect your parents now. It's just that you don't respect their rules on you growing up right now as a so-called repentant sinner.
Yeah.
And that's where the prodigal son analogy comes in. Like she acknowledges that she was she was in rebellion, but she does not acknowledge that the very thing she rebelled against was actually the right thing, the right way. That's where the disconnect is. Not necessarily whether her father is like a cuckold that doesn't demand respect.
That makes sense.
Andrew Costa brings up a question. Was her mom also a pastor? She kept saying
I did not.
I thought she was saying she was a pastor's kid, not she was a pastor's kid.
It was.
I haven't heard anything about
could
that.
Be wrong. She said kind of both. The problem is if she hasn't been a pastor, it's hard for me to backdate and look up the father. I mean, if I have more time I
don't even know her actual name.
The problem is if you try to Google this girl, like porn sites come up. So, I mean, Googling her father and trying to find what church.
Yeah, I had to put it on extra safe mode, if you know what I'm saying.
And trying to the problem is you'd have to know who her father was, Google the church, and then go from there. That part I don't know
and then you'd have to go to the Wayback Machine because if he hasn't been a pastor for 6 years, you're gonna have to do the Wayback Machine and get archived website, and or maybe it's just one of several churches that doesn't update their website ever. That certainly happens.
About 4 years ago, I started my OnlyFans because I think truly it was out of pure rebellion. And like, honestly, I'm such a like independent person that I never felt the need for a man to provide for me, like have a man in my life to provide for me. So I started OnlyFans about 4 years ago, and I climbed to top 0.01%. I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that the devil can truly give you things in this life. He has a budget though. He can only go so far. So a couple million, okay, great. The devil can do that sometimes, right? But I truly have gifts and talents. I just did not use them in the right way. And I'm reaching out to anyone who's like questioning what they should do in their life. And I turn to corn. That's what we're going to call it, okay? So this is just me sharing my personal experience with you. So I reached out and did corn for 4 years. And I showed myself all over the internet. I said crazy things on podcasts. If you don't know the I Love Cheating podcast. And so I met this person who's now my partner. And he truly showed me God's love. He was sending me Bible verses, praying over me, and we were just friends. So like the Holy Spirit was truly working and moving, but I was in such a rebellion against it because I was like, God doesn't love me. I've had to work this hard for this many years because no one cared about me. My family didn't care about me. Christianity is a cage. It's not Christianity. It's religion. Religion is the cage. And unfortunately, I didn't have like good role models growing up. My parents, my siblings, I didn't have good friends. I truly fell into darkness. And I was, like I said, I was top 0.01% creator. Like that is crazy. That is a crazy milestone to reach in that industry. So I made what I made. I did what I did, but I want to share.
I got to pause right there because I don't know how skewed. I don't know the inner workings of OnlyFans. And one of the people you referenced in the article, Anthony, who I also saw, and I believe Ryan's also interacted with on social media, the McNeely guy, from Reclaim Your Crown or Reclaim Your Throne. And that guy knew the inner workings of OnlyFans a little too much.
Does. I think he does actually have an OnlyFans. I looked at it.
No, in his video, he had a link to some other OnlyFans. I don't know if that was him on that OnlyFans, but he knew how OnlyFans worked a little too well. And there
bragged about how he could have been like an Andrew Tate. He did actually. He did actually do that. Now, can we just take a moment to laugh at the gifts and talents thing and like acting like sex work is real work and spreading your.
Well, I was going to make a point that I didn't know how well, how well that or how high quality you have to be to get that high on OnlyFans. Is everyone who has an OnlyFans account lumped into the creator pool? Because, you know, theoretically, if you have a YouTube account, you can post a video yourself and be included in the tabulation of several, millions of creators.
I mean, I did see
if you make any money on OnlyFans, if you make $1 a month on OnlyFans, where does that put you on the top percentile?
Well, I imagine there's a difference between creators. It's not like social media where anyone can post Instagram. It's probably like there's creators, then there's monthly active users, so to speak. I mean, I saw a thing that there's like 2 million American women that do OnlyFans, maybe
that's depressing.
Or something like that. They said 2% of women between 18 and 45 do OnlyFans, and that was published on Washington Examiner, and I think they took a CDC study, but they said like 82 million American men between 18 and 45 use OnlyFans. Again, I don't know if that's true because of like VPN and of course, obviously burner accounts and things like, I don't know if that part's true just because of VPN and burner accounts, but obviously if you're a creator that's taking money, that is probably a little bit more verifiable just because there's,
I had heard from one of the viral, hoes online and how she was complaining about dropping her or picking her vomiting kid up from school and how she had to, I don't know if you remember that video, but she was talking about 11 o'clock in the morning being peak hours for OnlyFans.
Well, because
do you know what time zone, you know what 11 o'clock in the morning is? It's like nighttime in India and the Middle East.
No, I think
who's actually paying for all these OnlyFans stars? Is it like actual foreigners?
Well, I mean, that's where the VPN traffic. So it looks like it's coming from America, but it could be like someone in Britain that's using a VPN to bypass like a censorship law or whatever.
That
But
seems highly likely.
I think that video in particular with the woman at 11 o'clock, I think she was like OnlyFans has legalized interstate prostitution. Like you can do meetups through OnlyFans, and you can do that across state lines. And again, though, a lot of these models or whatever will brag about it. I mean, I saw one post. It was like, this husky dude getting a hug from an OnlyFans girl. And, obviously the post was trying to make fun of him. It's like you paid like 10 grand for a hug when obviously the background is it's a hotel room. So you can guess what else was happening. It was more than a hug. But yeah, it's interstate prostitution.
No, but we don't. Come on. That's a stretch to say it was more than a hug. Because then the follow-up was, I went on vacation with my boyfriend or whatever, because that was the juxtaposition with that famous viral post that you're referencing.
Okay. Well, yeah, but there's clearly a hotel room in the background. We can all put one and one together that something else happened. But yeah, I mean, interstate prostitution is what OnlyFans allows, which, if there's any like attorney general watching this, like, you can open a case into that.
I really hope there's not an attorney general watching this.
Yeah. Hey, I do think so I think the biggest red flag with her thing for me, at least the one thing that has me the most skeptical is actually the boyfriend. I do think if I'm going to question anything, it's probably going to be if her boyfriend is somehow influencing this conversion, and then what happens if that doesn't work out. So that if I had a red flag, that's definitely going to be
along those lines.
I actually did not put a whole lot of stock into the boyfriend, like in my article.
You're gonna have to explain the boyfriend's concept a little bit more, because that's something I've heard about in comment sections, but I haven't seen anything on.
Well, I mean, she did say partner.
Yeah, she talked about her partner and how he was sharing like the love of God with her. And it seems to me like that's kind of one of the core things that led to this epiphany that she had. So, I don't think it's unreasonable to wonder if she could be doing it just for the sake of this relationship. She loves this guy, and
she does want to settle down.
Yeah.
Which I guess would be points, which is what the manosphere is kind of saying. But I find this video just interesting off the bat because she's wearing the necklace that's the kinky necklace.
Yeah, you can't see this. You can't see it on the screen.
If you notice that the thumbnail for the video or the thumbnail for the article, she is wearing pants that have the F-bomb in it, but they're hentai sweatpants. And that was posted after the baptism on her Instagram. So if you look at the thumbnail for this video or the thumbnail for the article, it featured, a before, middle, after, so to speak. And the after was her in hentai sweatpants. So there's still a lot of like promiscuity. Obviously, we could talk about the eyebrows, which the slang term for those
now
is cumbrellas.
To her credit with the clothing, she did recently just post.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
I do want to get to that. We're kind of going in order of certain events, I guess. So this is I guess more of the backstory, and so we don't get fooled again, because I don't know if you're familiar with the Born Again Steph and how she scammed people. She had like some sort of GoFundMe that scammed a bunch of people, and then she deleted her account. Now she's back. There's a lot of reasons to be skeptical of this, but we have one reason to be, supportive and optimistic about this, and that is Jesus Christ himself.
Yeah.
So let's get through this.
Share with you guys the truth of it all, because I am now giving it all up for Christ. I am now truly a believer. I would never take it back. God radically saved me from this darkness. And let me tell you again, the devil has a budget, but God does not. God literally made you. He made this world. He made the heavens. Like, what makes you think that God can't bless you with anything? But the devil will give you these things that trip you up, and money in front of your face, and these worldly friends, your family that isn't there for you, but don't be discouraged, because God has a better plan for your life. And let me tell you, I have felt and started living that plan. And since then, the money, the fame, the Gucci, Louis, whatever bags, the shoes, the clothing, the huge trips that I've taken doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, do you want to go to heaven or do you want to go to hell? And my soul, I'm sorry, but it's not worth going to hell for at all. And God loves you so much that he's willing to give you everlasting life. You need to understand that your life is very temporary here on earth, and we all have a mission, and that's to preach the word of God. Okay? I love you guys. I just wanted to clear that up and share a little bit of my testimony, but there you have it. Please be nice in the comments, because just remember, you are not here to judge others. God is here to judge, not you. So please, please be nice, be kind, be loving, bear the fruits of the Spirit. I love you guys. I love you so much, and God bless.
So there we have it. That's the testimonial clip. Pretty long.
Now again, I did write the budget. The devil's budget versus God's budget is very prosperity-esque. I mean, you could imagine Mike Todd giving that exact same spiel about the devil has a budget.
I don't really think the devil has a limited budget when it comes to money, but
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is she's living off the devil's budget currently. Like, the devil is still her sugar daddy. So
I mean, where are all the rich Christians at funding the He Gets Us campaign? It's
it got so much worse too. Yeah, that was a big misstep that He Gets Us campaign, but that's a whole other rabbit trail.
It is, but yeah, it's like, I think the devil's good on finances, and giving you $1 million is like a small flex.
But even the implication that God's gonna outbid the devil, I think is very much prosperity, very much like Mike Todd type of sermon, because did God outbid Satan when it came to like Abraham? No, Abraham had to essentially forsake his family wealth. And really, you don't necessarily, he was obviously wealthy when he died and blessed along the way, but he still pretty much had to start from a substantially reduced position. Obviously, David came from nothing, or maybe a little bit of wealth, but a lot of
money.
But I mean, obviously, like Paul is wealthy and pretty, financially financially well off, and then he becomes an apostle. So the idea that God's going to outbid the devil, no, the devil had Paul and his grips, sustained, high social prominence. So I mean, the devil will use the tools of this world to ensnare people.
Yeah. A lot of the, I do not expect her to have great theology. I just don't,
No.
In general,
no way.
I really don't. I don't expect many new believers to have great theology unless they are part of an exceptional church, or honestly, they're reading the Bible for themselves every single day. I'm not very optimistic about that in general. So like, those are things that for me, I don't really get hung up on. It's small things right now. If this were her a year later, I would definitely be a little bit more skeptical.
Right. I'm very generous on, the quote unquote baby Christian. And I don't expect her to understand the Trinity whatsoever, let alone,
some things that I do think kind of makes me think it's a little bit more authentic is that she's talking about heaven or hell. I don't even know some pastors that talk about heaven or hell and repentance. I think that's those are two things where I'm like, all right, like she's actually hitting subjects I don't even hear some pastors talking about, repentance and heaven and hell. So I thought, okay, that's good. And it did seem pretty genuine, even though her theology not great.
Well, again, I think it should be better given her upbringing. That's part of the issues that, if you grew up with all the Bible stories and, maybe doing some kind of catechizing, memory verses, I think she should know better. I mean, maybe,
I mean,
as Yellow Moth said, someone with her IQ and TikTok brain and all that kind of stuff. Maybe like she's so warped mentally.
Well, there is a thing called porn brain.
Well, yeah. So
maybe
she's suffering.
I don't know how it affects women, but
from how it sounds like her father was, I mean, he's taking her porn money. So I don't know how spiritually sound their home was.
Yeah, I would agree.
Pastor taking her porn money, it seems weird. So maybe it wasn't as good as that as we think.
Yeah,
maybe she was spiritually starved, and she doesn't have a really good framework for all of this.
Yeah, I think that's has a lot to do with it. So I guess the point raised in that video is, she's talking about taking it all down and stuff like that. So there is talks about change here. And this is months after the baptism, which is worth bringing up, that even after being baptized, she still operated the OnlyFans account. And only, I think after that video did she actually delete all the content on the OnlyFans account. And if you were to look at it right now, and I'm not recommending that you do, but if you were, it would show it's masked behind a paywall, and it says one post, one media, which I believe the post and the media are the same, but we don't know what it says. So we don't know what the one post is. It could be, hey, DM me if you want something. It could be her own testimony. We don't know.
Yeah, we have no. Now, one thing I do want to.
And I'm not paying $10 to find out.
Yeah, they're probably not a good idea, not advisable. But one thing I do want to point out. So, Reclaim Your Throne they posted, that she was still operating her OnlyFans, and that people were receiving payments, or she was interacting with people, and she's still basically doing what she was doing before. And they highlighted that said yesterday, but that post actually did not have a date. So it's it's her old profile. So we don't really know how old that.
$10.
Yeah, but it could have been like she could have changed her prices before. Like we have no idea.
I believe the impression is she actually raised the price to $10. Now, what he is probably right about, because again, that guy is shady, I think, and I don't know if he has an OnlyFans link in his own videos.
Like I think, I don't know
so because he has a link. How
I don't know if
OnlyFans works.
Maybe because he has a link, he has some kind of backdoor, I won't say abilities to see other creators. I don't know. I don't want to know.
I will say this, because she has the active subscriptions, she can't actually delete the account. And I think he's probably 100% about that. If she truly wanted to delete the account, she would make it free so that the subscriptions would expire, and thus there would, not be any more subscrimes.
Yeah.
And then she could delete the account, but she is not doing that.
Yeah, but what I suspect she's probably doing is she's probably going to, and I don't advise her, I don't think this is a good idea. She's probably going to continue to use the account, but put other content on there. Not because I know OnlyFans is predominantly known for porn, but it's not exclusively porn. You can post other content.
Originally, it was not. It was basically like Patreon back in the day.
If you go on the OnlyFans,
a certain
Twitter
investor
account
from Ukraine bought into it and basically turned it into a porn site.
If you go on the OnlyFans Twitter account, they don't advertise what they're most known for.
Yeah, so she could be transitioning to that. I'm not saying it's a good, but it's
she's still bilking the people $10 a month to do it.
I would say it's still better than her doing porn, though. So it's like small incremental steps in the right direction.
I mean, she's essentially, these people pay for it, and then she's still taking their money but not giving them what they paid for. So I guess is that stealing, or is that a stupid tax? I mean know. Can you really steal ill-gotten?
Can you really shoplift a prostitute? Money? Is this what we're asking?
Well, it's not. I mean, this is ethical gray area, because it's like stealing stolen items from someone. Yeah. That's the kind of level of ethics that we're dealing with, and instead she's stealing money from people that are trying to spend it on porn.
Yeah, I mean, they
Cornish,
can
would
cancel
say.
their subscriptions, all right. I mean, right?
Yeah, they
And get a
can.
refund. So, like, if they
But
choose not to, then is it necessarily wrong for her to basically treat it like a Patreon? And then how do we know she hasn't refunded people? Because we don't know that. That's speculation.
well, shoot, you would think the first step to doing that would be to delete the paywall.
I mean, again, I don't like the idea of her continuing to have an online presence and like.
I don't either. Like,
I think there's a lot of unity on that issue.
if I were to give her like my prescription, if I were to talk down to her, I'd be like, yeah, get off social media. Not a good idea. I'd probably be more hardcore than most people because I also don't think she should ever get married again. Like, or ever get married. I don't think
Really? Get E to a nunnery.
No.
Get
Okay.
E to a nunnery.
How about you open that up? Unpack that a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think people that have done porn should get married. I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea for them. I don't think it's a good idea for their spouse. I don't think it's a good idea for their future kids. I just don't think it's a good idea because when especially for somebody that's done porn, maybe it's a little bit different when with somebody who's been promiscuous, but with porn, that is out there forever, and it's not going away and it's always going to haunt you. So when somebody enters into that relationship, that husband is always going to have to be wondering if, the people that he's with, his friends, his family, his coworkers are looking at images of his wife. The children may be subjected to bullying. So I think the better, more righteous, and honestly, genuinely repentant thing to do would be for them to just forsake marriage and serve the church. Don't do that. It's probably not a good idea. And if they are going to get married, maybe find somebody that was in the industry that left just like they did and are serving the Lord, because then at least you have somebody that understands.
Yeah, parity.
Yeah. And if there is a guy that's willing to marry her, I think she needs to be very blunt about what he's signing up for and what that means. And probably wouldn't be a good idea to have kids either. I think that's probably the best path for her. And any woman that's formerly done porn, and it's going to be a lot of them, unfortunately, and they're probably not going to take my advice, but I do think that's probably the best path.
So obviously Yellowmoth has to push back on, Rahab should have done that too, which is a snarky response because Rahab is in the lineage of Jesus despite being a prostitute. Although because she was
also did a little prostitution in her day.
That is true, I guess. So obviously there are some counter examples in scripture. I guess is what Yellowmoth is pointing out. Do you have any response to that? I would like to point out 1 Corinthians 7 talks about burning with passion. The idea that you're burning with passion, that you're not really called to celibacy.
Yeah, I would say
so that would kind of be my response to that. I'm not sure, but I feel like
I would say the difference between then and now is that their images weren't online. So, it wasn't something that's going to, like, they could go to a different town and kind of get away from it. I don't think that can happen today. So I think the better, I'm not saying they can't get married. I'm saying I would advise them not to. If they want to, sure. Do
you think it's possible that because of the proliferation or ubiquity of pornography, that even if they left it, they would just be, one drop in an ocean, so to speak, that it might not be as haunting for that reason? It's not like they were, even she was probably most high profile because of the whatever podcast, not because, she's like some sort of Marilyn Monroe type of sex symbol in American society, because I don't think she's that personally, but I guess a number of people do, but
maybe. I mean, yeah, I still don't think it's a good idea because it's like you're automatically by default signing the husband and future children up for problems. It just comes with baggage. Now, I'm not saying they can't do it. Again, I'm not saying they can't. I just wouldn't recommend it. 10 out of 10 wouldn't recommend it, and I wouldn't recommend men marrying her. I just wouldn't do it.
Oh, that I
Anthony,
agree.
Anthony concludes the article by talking about this debate where, are you really a born again virgin?
Well, yeah, that's like the term.
Samuel Say put out a tweet about how, the repentant OnlyFans girl is more pure than I forget than the unrepentant virgin, and I'm like,
slow to think.
One more
Change
thing I
your
want
thought.
to bring up, and I'm curious to see
I just cringed at that because there's a sense in which it's true, but it's like I still don't think I still think the unrepentant virgin is actually probably more marriageable, and you just be a husband and lead your family in faith, because I'm not arguing for interfaith marriages at all, but I think it's probably more successful when the husband is in the proper faith. I don't think missionary dating or marriage works the other way around often.
Yeah. So one extra thing I want to bring up, kind of. So would we make this same argument too for like a detransition, trans man or a woman who transitioned to be a man then detransition, would we be advising them to get married too?
I mean,
I'm hard pressed to think that we would.
I would also
wouldn't
here's a more
necessarily-
practical example, and I say practical because I think a lot of us might know an example. If someone's a registered sex offender and they're in the church, and let's say that they're even there's no reason to question that they've repented and all of that. Are women entitled to marry him? Or is he entitled to marry someone in the church that, it's, age compatible?
I don't want to say there actually is a biblical prescription on this issue. Like, because part of the problem is that marriage is actually a social obligation and like a civic duty. And obviously this is like Deuteronomy 20 with marriage being an exemption from war. But, if you go to the book of Judges, every man that wants a wife gets a wife. And the whole scam of, okay, we're going to send our daughters like off into this field over there. And then your sons are just going to like go into the field. I like to envision
them so that
I like to envision it as riding on horsebacks with the lasso, and just like you take the women and marry them, and that way we can say that we didn't give you our daughters to marry. But yeah, there actually is a sense that like marriage is supposed to be a social obligation.
I think it's something that most people should do. Obviously, I'm not against that, but I think circumstances like this, I do think the better path would be just for them to commit themselves to the church. I really think that would be better. I think that would be a really good solution. It's also one of my big problems with kind of the red pill community when they're discouraging marriage. They're discouraging people from entering into marriage, but then they don't offer, they're not encouraged. It's not like they're encouraging men to pursue ministry or, give their lives to something greater. No, it's to be single, bag more chicks, and keep doing what they've always, what they're currently doing. And I don't think that's good or healthy.
Because basically what they're doing is they're trying to get men to adapt and thrive in feminism.
Yeah. And it's
that's certainly the pickup artist. I do think there's I heard this quote the other day, and it was this guy that said, people go into the red pill to learn how to pick up chicks, and they come out not giving a crap about women. And that's that might be more the pipeline of what the red pill does. Instead of getting people obsessed over women or picking up women and bagging more chicks, it actually might make them dejected and disaffected. It might actually make them more likely to tap out of the market altogether. So I do think there's more of a pipeline in that direction. I mean, the common acronym is called MGTOW, or maybe a passport bro, where you're not even like using this market, you're going to a different market altogether. So I'm not entirely like, maybe the red pill gets a little castigated because the figureheads certainly aren't like getting married. Like the Brian guy on whatever is notorious for his stance against marriage. And he's been confronted on that numerous times by various individuals. Obviously, I don't think like Myron, Fresh and Fit, and all them are, focused on marriage. But then
Myron's advice to men though is to sleep with like 50 women before they get married.
Yeah,
like that's his advice.
Yeah, I don't think
Pretty
it's and that's what makes you a high value man.
And then you have like Rollo Tomasi, who actually is married, and he's been married for like 2 decades. So he's not necessarily preaching what he practiced himself.
Yeah.
So a couple more aspects to point out with this is one, the issue of whether it's a grift or not has been brought up, and she posted a video that definitely seems to indicate that there's some grift going on. As I search to pull it up, so on this tab we have her photo shoot, which is post baptism, where she's wearing the hentai sweatpants in front of a New York City police car, and then in this video we have the upcoming change. Okay, I'm just gonna mute it because it's just money. So she's doing a dance video, and I don't want to tell her how to do her craft, but this is the dance video that she's doing, and I don't want to tell her how to do her craft, but she has it mirrored for something that she wants. She has a clothing line that she's touting that's going to come out about being the change. So, yeah, that's what's coming out. So we're gonna start selling clothes now. Like, hasn't this been done before? This is where like the grifty senses come in. So I don't think anyone's talked about this aspect of the story yet. So, your thoughts?
I mean, again, I'm against her continuing to have an online presence. I think that's a sign that it is not genuine, because like Paul went away for upwards of a decade after the Damascus Road conversion, or at least he wasn't doing his mission trips. Obviously, he's in like, I guess that's Syria.
Studying in Antioch, I believe.
Yeah. Which, I mean, is the third largest city in Rome, just to give some perspective. But he wasn't necessarily this profound leader in the church for years. And then, but she's essentially, I compare her to a gangster who's going legitimate. Like, you sell heroin, you're like Pablo Escobar at porn, and then you're all of a sudden going legitimate after you've made like millions, and the revenue stream is starting to, you've already peaked revenue, so you're maturing in your business cycle, so to speak. So she's actually transitioning into another business to offset the declines, and basically set herself up for the rest of her life, theoretically.
I don't know, honestly. I don't know what her financial situation is like. I don't.
Well,
know
I mean, she does. She does allude to that.
I don't know what she's ultimately done, but I don't personally think there's anything wrong with her trying to make money. I just don't. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I mean, anybody, if you leave your job, you're going to try to find alternative forms of income. That just anybody would do that.
But
so
her income, but her income is itself from porn. So she's essentially transferring everything she's done and just basically a gangster going legitimate. You're a mobster, and you're no longer taking in vice money. You're just transitioning all your operations to like legitimate operations and getting out of the game, but you're still a mobster.
Isn't that better though? I mean, better than her doing porn. Like, I would like my thing is like, I don't expect her to get everything all right overnight, but I expect her to at least start moving in the right direction. That's what it seems like she's doing. Everything that she does, it seems like she's gradually taking these steps, step by step. And again, if this was a year out, I definitely have more reservations. But it just makes sense to me. It just seems like somebody trying to hold on a little bit, wrestling a little bit, trying not to lose all their income, and it makes sense to me. I don't think it's the right thing to do, but it makes sense to me.
Well, let's bring back the Kanye West comparison, because this might be necessary to point out that she might be following in Kanye West's footsteps. Because what did Kanye West do as soon as, or actually before he converted in 2019? He was doing these Sunday services, and he was having Rich Wilkerson Jr. preach, his false gospel, because that guy is a total, vapid clown. So he had Rich Wilkerson Jr. at these Sunday services, and he still wanted to do these Sunday services after he supposedly converted. And even though he's not qualified to really be leading. He's a baby Christian. He shouldn't be trying to lead worship and initiatives and stuff like that. And I kind of see some similarity. It is worth noting that she built this entire audience doing pornography and or thirst traps. She has not taken down what I would call thirst traps, as the kids would call them as well. She hasn't really taken that down at all. And she has an asset, and that asset is her social media presence and the amount of followers that she has. So what she's trying to do is monetize her asset, but do so in a less, what's the word? Whorish way, I guess is the way to say it.
But I mean, your asset is that you were a whore. Like that's the whole problem. It's like, okay, you're a gangster. You have like millions of dollars. You have like a Bugatti, and you have this sports car. Then you get saved. Well, should you not then forsake it? Like, there's not even like a Zacchaeus like promise. Like, where Zacchaeus gets saved, he vows to immediately restore anyone anyone he did wrong. And obviously he's a tax collector. He's kind of a traitor to his people, and amongst other things. And yeah, there might be other sin that was in his life that we don't know about. But obviously the immediate sin, the one that led him to, I guess, being convicted by the Holy Spirit and receiving grace, was the fact that he's a tax collector, he's an extortionist, and so forth. So there's not necessarily like a Zacchaeus moment in her.
I think so. I mean, her selling her clothes that she was, or throwing them out that she was wearing, probably in a lot of the videos. I think that's,
but she's
designer one. I think that's
wearing the kink necklace
while she's doing that.
Well, in the testimony video.
Okay,
like it's handcuffs.
I don't know where.
I am going to pull up. Let me pull up the video that you're talking about on your Twitter at RCAM_TV.
Where am I falling short? God, tell me my sins. God, please open and reveal these things in my life so that I can get rid of them to serve you better. It's about fixing what's in here before you go out there, okay? So this is what God's been laying on my heart lately. So, I'm a female. I bought a lot of clothes and all this crap. It's truly crap, by the way. Materialistic things are just crap. So God has been laying on my heart that I need to be more modest, okay? And that is literally to be able to find your future husband and truly not tempt others with your body or with anything else. God is telling me, hey, Nala, you need to be more modest, okay? So I was like, okay, God, what is it that I can do to become more modest? So I have bagged up. There's so many more downstairs. I have bagged up all of my clothes, not all of them, but anything that I felt that might be lustful or immodest, and bagged it up. I'm throwing it away. I don't care. I've given away all of my designer things. I don't own one designer thing right now. I've kept a couple sentimental things, but that is truly because they were just gifts. But God is truly speaking to me and telling me hey, this is your wickedness right here. And I need you to take care of it for me so that I can plant my seed in you and so that you can go out into the world and be a true soldier for Christ.
That actually is the most optimistic evidence that has been presented all night, just for the record.
Yeah,
I agree with that, actually.
So this has been my whole argument. This thing is that I don't expect her to get everything right. No, obviously not. But I just feel like she is taking small incremental steps in the right direction. This is actually pretty significant.
I agree.
I don't. We don't know how many thousands of dollars her clothes are worth, but she's giving those up. And trying to go more modest. And I think that's a very good thing, especially since her brand was being immodest. That was her whole brand. Now, did she take down the Instagram? Not yet, but I suspect she probably will as she goes through this process of sanctification. The more she learns, the more she's going to start to veer away from some of these old things that were ensnaring her, And I think if we're being honest as Christians, a lot of us, There are people that claim Christ and are probably subscribed to her OnlyFans. You know, they're holding on to sins that they should have given up a long time ago. The only difference is that they're not influencers. They're not in the public spotlight. And she is. Now, should she step out of it? Yeah. And maybe in 3 months from now, she'll get that conviction and she'll start to step back. But we don't know. And I think we should come alongside of this girl, pray for her, and hope that God continues to do a work in her, you know, because like it's what I'm seeing is she makes a positive step, and then people are like, well, you need to do this and this and this and this and this, and then you'll be perfect. It's like let her breathe a little bit, you know. Like if I had that type of magnifying glass under me when I was going through my salvation experience, it would have made things a lot more difficult, you know. And there were things I struggled with for years. I cursed nonstop for like 10 years. And I finally had gotten convicted about that and stopped doing it, you know, but it took time. It didn't happen instantly, you know?
So let me just say that I think because she has some of a Christian background, I think that her finding Christ should have been enough to have said, I'm going to stop the OnlyFans. Like, I think and this is the problem with that church that she was at was, you know, they didn't do any validation, you know, for the confirmation before she's being baptized. Like, I think she should have had some sit downs with the pastor, so to speak, you know, just to confirm that she's serious. And, you know, because all pastors to some degree baptize heathens.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't just knowing, unless you're a Paedo Baptist, I'll give them a break on this one, but because they do it too. But a Credo Baptist, you're baptizing someone because of their creed, because they've made a profession. So I do think it's their job to make sure that the profession is credible before making a public announcement of it, which maybe her baptism was spontaneous, which is another reason why spontaneous baptism is not a biblical practice in my mind. But, you know, that should have been kind of explained. Oh, you're an OnlyFans? Okay, well, that means you're going to delete it, right?
Well, you should be deleting it before you even receive baptism, personally.
Yeah. Well, I agree with that.
But
that's more of an indictment on the church.
Again,
that's what I'm doing. As I am indicting the church
whole
there.
article
But
began was the indictment on the church.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm saying, yeah, the church did, but she also had a religious upbringing. So I feel like, yeah, doing, you know, naked, you know, videos of her being all over the place and people being all over her. And, you know, she's talked about, you know, sodomizing dudes. Yeah. So what exactly she knows she's turning away from that. So I kind of think that, okay, deleting the OnlyFans kind of should have been a no-brainer. And then she's still monetizing the OnlyFans, which I think
that's the Zacchaeus moment to me. Yeah. That's like the thing you immediately do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and I think, you know, raising your subscription rate allegedly and then continuing the subscription, I think is also, I think that's very shady as well. I mean, I know you need money, but, you know, have some faith that God's going to provide for you in the transition period, I guess. And hopefully she had some savings saved up. So.
Yeah, I hope so too, but we will see.
we will see. But the reason why I wanted to talk about this was people have been fooled so many times by, I used to be an OnlyFans, now I'm a trad grifter. And that has happened so many times. We're kind of using this knowledge person as like a springboard to talk about something larger.
Yeah, I guess I'm probably not as jaded with it because this is the first one that I'm seeing, you know. So obviously you guys have seen this happen before. This is the first time I'm seeing it. So pretty exciting for me, especially given that like I was just getting into it with Red Pill about Jesus not being able to save these hoes. I just felt like God came in kind of clutch there. I was like, yes. Now maybe she could pull some more out. That's my optimism, is that get a hold of her, pull more women out, like break these strongholds, because we definitely need it to happen. Now, I will say this: if she starts posting pornography again, I'll be the first one to call her out on it, man. Because it's like I believed, in Kanye when he converted. I was really happy about that, celebrating that. But now that he's posting the degenerate pictures of his wife, I'm very critical of it, and I have no problem doing that. But I do try to give, grace, especially for like new converts, give them some time, let them find their bearings, let them get some of that foundational teaching, let them maybe get plugged into a good church. And then I'll be a little bit more critical. But for right now, I'm just going to try to give her a little bit of grace. And if she posts porn, man, I'll be devastated and heartbroken for her, honestly. And it's a tragic thing.
To some extent, she hasn't necessarily, she scrubbed some of the porn, but she hasn't scrubbed all of it. Like, I think her Instagram.
She has a backup. She has a backup.
Like
Twitter
the one
account.
you're posting the reels at. Doesn't that have the mouth open, like cross-eyed look that is like eliciting thoughts of oral sex? Like, isn't that the actual profile picture though? Like, that's the problem. Like, you've kind of done like a partial scrub, a partial not.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of half measures being taken, which is, again, that's why I say it's a transition. It's like transitioning to going legitimate. Like, you're taking a lot of half steps. You're doing it incrementally. It's very strategic.
Yeah.
It's not.
I mean, I don't know. The way she's just struggling to give everything up. She's still trying to hold. I don't think it's good, but it's kind of understandable. When you're making I don't think you guys are rich. Maybe you are. but it's
Maybe
very,
someday.
very, very difficult to give up wealth. I imagine, and I imagine there's probably some bargaining going on. Oh, I'll delete my OnlyFans, but let me keep my subscribers because I still need to make money. And I feel like it's just a normal human thing to do. It's not good. But I get it.
And that's why the whole giving up the clothing thing is actually that's a positive step. Like, I would call that, let's say, step 3 in your step 1 would be scrubbing your complete scrub of your accounts, your maybe even deleting social media, taking off all the pornography and all that.
What's
from your
two?
site. Step 2, I don't know, but step 3 would be you get convicted about the materialism in your own life. You start cleaning out your wardrobe. And there needs to be a makeover step at some point in the process, and you need to stop actually looking like a whore with the red hair.
I was going to say the umbrellas.
I mean, yeah, that too. I mean, there's a reason.
I don't know what the deal is with lip fillers, but if you can get those removed, please do. I have a mantra that's fake lips is lying lips, and I just can't take fake lip people seriously. Also, did Governor Kristi Noem get fake lips?
She got her teeth done. That's all I know.
I know she got her teeth done. She did another video where she did a product influencer with foot sole wear. But I'm like, did she get a lip job? So anyway,
I hope not.
Lying politician.
I mean, there's a reason I described her appearance as meretricious, because I've always wanted to use that word in an article, and it's basically derived from a word for prostitute.
Yeah, when I was editing the article, I looked at synonyms for the word and I didn't find any. That's how advanced the word was.
Well, meretrix is a Latin prostitute, so yeah, I've always wanted to use that word in an article and knocked it out of the park.
So I'm going to catch up on some chat here. Christian Mario is in the chat, said, I defended Ye and he, DW, me, was right all along. I defended Kanye at points in time too. I don't defend his music because I am not a rap guy. I don't defend fashion his fashion taste in fashion. I don't think he's a fashion icon. I think South Park got it right with the whole gay fish joke that they did with him. But he did do the great noticing. He kind of initiated that in a way. So there is some good that came out of him, but then I think the moment was when the Balenciaga thing is he's going to call out some things, but not other things because he loves fashion too much. And that was kind of it for me. I even didn't mind him trying to run for president and stuff like that. So I defended Kanye a little bit, but obviously I was quicker to, I think now it's completely mainstream that he's not really legit, and which is sad. And he followed up with "Don't put your faith in princes and princesses" in this case, and then young Christian Great Planet says young Christian guys are too soft, too forgiving, hoping a whore won't whore.
No, trust me, I'm not very soft when it comes to rating women. Trust me, you can bank on that. Like,
well, don't use something that could be taken as a pun in the wrong way. With what you said about soft and not being or whatever, so careful with that one, Anthony. But basically, is what you're saying that you don't find someone who has a high body count marriageable regardless, or is that what you're saying, Anthony?
Well, I'm just saying I got very
you have high standards.
I have high standards.
Okay.
Like I don't like bad piercings. I don't like tattoos. I don't like the dyed hair, which obviously is immodest. I don't like the fact that she still does like the dancing videos in like TikTok dancing videos. John Harris and like Allie Beth Stuckey, they commented on that one video with the Mardi Gras girls that it's trashy, it's degenerate.
Man, Allie Beth,
it's a left swipe.
Just to talk on that for a second, I did a nice video where I defend Allie Beth Stuckey and her sourdough bread comments, and then she has to throw away the good graces I give her by defending the trashy behavior of women. And it's like that video encompasses why that video was complete peak unattractiveness. Why? It's not just because of the trashy dancing, it's because it's just childish. There's nothing aspirational or adult about it. It's let me continue in my childish ways. I think John Harris kind of made that point as well. But man, I stuck up for Allie Stuckey, and then she just throws away my good graces there.
Like if I saw that on a dating profile, I'm swiping left. That's just the reality.
I thought it was a promo for Stanley Cups. Is what I thought the whole thing was.
Man, where did Stanley Cups come from?
Every girl in that video had Stanley Cups.
Also,
I just took it as it's like Mardi Gras, so it's open container.
Sororities are degenerate and fraternities are kind of gay. So I'm going to add that to the list of my critiques on that. But yet we are called to be forgiving because Christ forgave us. We aren't called to be soft because the Bible condemns a certain form of softness, which is translated properly as effeminacy in 1 Corinthians 6. But I believe that's the we're all caught up on the chat. I'm going to give a last call for questions. I think we have had a pretty good discussion here. Talked about a lot of
there was the conversation
key issues.
Just to follow up on John Harris, because after he made the Allie Beth Stuckey Cup comment, he talked about how there's the whole debate on whether like a Christian man should marry a woman with a little bit of a past or some kind of a past. Obviously, we're not the comments weren't in the nature of like a Nala past of having a 9-inch strap on and like doing things with that. Like we're talking like just a past, and I don't think like Christians are morally obligated to overlook someone's past in choosing a wife and anything like that. Nor is there like scripture that suggests that you don't have earthly consequences for your sin, even with forgiveness.
So, with that said, born again virgin, is that a legitimate thing?
Well, no.
Okay, no. So I think we're all in agreement that that's not really a real thing.
No.
Okay, because I just hear that comment as like, no. And then when Samuel say, and I don't want to like poop on him because
I'm okay.
The guy's taking a lot of heat right now because he talked about sleep training his kid, but he did it in a vague way. And now people are calling child protective services on him. So I don't want to kick him while he's down, so to speak, which is nuts because I completely approve of sleep training children. You're doing it at 4 months, try 2.5. But
Yeah,
we got our kids
recently
to sleep.
trained my child because I was having 7 months.
We got our
I was like, nah,
kids to sleep through the night at like 3 months, both
that's
of
amazing.
them. What's also amazing is that we didn't do the whole thing that parents do, is like don't wake up the baby or whatever, because we have a very small living space, or we've had some small living spaces, so that wasn't really our thing. And instead it was they're heavy sleepers.
That's awesome.
So
Yeah, I had to fight my wife to sleep train my daughter, but I was trying to like, no, we need to sleep through the night. It's happening. So they both cried, but we got through it.
Yeah, and something about Samuel Say kind of says that he leans more your way, whereas if they're crying in the middle of the night, I don't really wake up from that. I just have this magical fatherly ability to not wake up in the middle of the night when I hear crying. So some might call that a superpower. Okay, so Yellow Moth says, when is your Ling Duncan video coming out? So I gotta ask, did he post another video, or
there is a different video?
The
problem is we just did a video on him last week.
Yeah, we did a live stream. No, was it last week or was it the week before?
It was.
Yeah, the Gospel Coalition versus CN. Yeah, that was last week we did a live stream with Ling Duncan. Here I am seeing everyone talk about him. I thought that they were talking about the same video from the Gospel Coalition, but I guess if there's a different video, I'll try to cover it. But I think I'm behind the curve. So the way that I kind of operate, and here's a little inside baseball, is I have a lot of sticky notes on different article ideas, and then sometimes I don't get to them, and they just go to the scrapyard. So this whole tonight's topic of talking about, former OnlyFans converting to Christ and all that, there was a scammer who I wanted to do an article or a video on, and I wasn't able to because of just time constraints and stuff like that. So it went to the scrapyard. The born again stuff went to the scrapyard as a topic goes. So I don't think the Ling Duncan thing's gonna come out as a video.
If anything,
I got another thing
on this.
I got another video on the Chosen I'm sitting on. I got the Michael O'Fallon stuff was very quick this week, and that bumped back some other stuff. Next week we got a dispensationalist preacher going hardcore against Christian nationalism, which will be a fun sermon I think that'll be next week's live stream. But wow, there's a lot of interesting things. So I got like so many topics. I want to talk about the Pearl Davis versus Michael Knowles thing. But that's like 2 hours. I haven't watched it yet. So there's a whole lot of ideas that I have that I just might not even get to, because it went from being a very slow news cycle in the beginning of the week, and I'm just struggling. Like, what am I going to make a video on? And I finally make a video on Redeem Zoomers Reconquista. And then what am I going to do a video on? It's like, why did it take me so long to see the Michael Brown thing? And then I instantly know what I'm doing a video on. So it's just, I've been struggling this week, and just trying to, keep my head above the water and like find things that are interesting and compelling.
If anything,
pushing this topic off, I was more prepared to talk about this, like from Monday on, than the things that I talked about earlier in the week.
If anything, we're ahead on this subject, so it doesn't matter if we don't do anything on Lincoln Duncan. Yeah. Especially since we were also a little ahead on it last week, and then we just missed one topic. So you win some, you lose some, but
Yeah, a woke preacher is going to be woke. That's kind of where we're at. Let's see. Yeah, and Yellow says everyone else has done a video on it. It was an interview on Time for Nuance. Okay. And then he misquotes Jesus. John Harris put out a short about that earlier. It was a retraction because he thought that he thought Ling Duncan was correct, so he didn't like question it at the time. So all right. I don't see any more questions. Where can we find, or where can our audience find you, Ryan?
I'm on YouTube, Rumble, Instagram. I am on TikTok. So RCAM.tv. You'll find me.
And that's linked in the description below, RCAM.tv, which is basically his all my links.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And,
cannot believe I got that, actually, that domain. RCAM.tv. I was like, yes.
So that's where you can find him, Evangelical Dark Web. You can find us at evangelicaldarkweb.org. And we have a Patreon-like system there at evangelicaldarkweb.org/join. We have a free newsletter that gives you Christian content in your inbox each and every day. Christian news specifically, because this is a news gathering and commentary channel. And I don't think anyone else anyone else in the Christian news industry is covering this story. So that's kind of what makes us special. But we're in very friendly competition with other people. So I'm a competitive guy, so I like to talk about things first. But usually I don't. But anyway, I do have some special content coming because there was a certain Kraken that wasn't released. So you'll get some inside baseball if you're a subscriber on Evangelical Dark Web. And then next week I meet Kim Klasick, who once spoke at the RNC. She's running for Congress where I live, and I'll probably write something for the paywall about how about that experience for subscribers as well. So until then, have a blessed day, and we will catch you on